Imagine showing up for your flight. You've got your bags, you're ready to go, and you are facing a 4-hour security line. And all of this is because of a political fight happening hundreds of miles away in Washington.
Yeah, it's honestly like a broken simulation at this point.
Right. I mean, today is March 21, 2026, and the Department of Homeland Security is currently deep into its second shutdown of the year.
Which is just wild to think about.
It really is. Over 100,000 federal workers are, they're going without pay right now. We're looking at airports like William P. Hobby in Houston, and TSA call-out rates have hit 55%.
55%, half the staff just not showing up.
Exactly. And that is driving wait times to nearly 4 hours. Plus, global entry is entirely suspended, and the Secret Service is actually falling behind on security prep for the 2026 FIFA World Cup.
Which is massive. I mean, the ripple effects are touching everything from your weekend vacation to global sporting events.
So for today's deep dive, we're unpacking exactly how this standoff started. We've got a really diverse stack of sources today. We're pulling from White House memos, congressional press releases, leaked polling data from Semaphore, and the actual 2026 DHS appropriations text.
Heavy reading, for sure.
Yeah, a bit dense. But our mission is to figure out what is fundamentally at stake in this frozen legislation and why you are feeling the very real impact of this gridlock.
Because it didn't start with airport security. It actually started with a $17.7 billion funding package that was, well, it was moving pretty smoothly through Congress.
Until January 24th.
Right. On January 24th, Customs and Border Protection agents killed a man named Alex Preddy. And that incident was the spark. Senate Democrats immediately pulled their support for the bill.
They basically said they wouldn't let the legislation move forward without major reforms to immigration enforcement.
Exactly. And they issued 15 specific demands. They want to ban agents from wearing face masks and paramilitary-style gear. They want mandatory body cameras.
And the really big one, requiring judicial warrants to enter private property.
Yeah, that's a huge shift. For decades, agents have had this broad authority to access certain land near the border without a judge's sign-off. Requiring a warrant would completely change their day-to-day field operations.
Now, we need to be really clear here. We are not taking sides. We are just looking at the competing arguments in our sources. And Republicans, along with the White House, they flat out rejected these demands.
They did. Their argument is that these rules would basically wrap field operations in dangerous red tape. They say banning tactical gear and needing a judge's approval just severely limits law enforcement and endangers agents.
Okay, let's unpack this. It's like holding the electricity bill hostage to force a renegotiation of your apartment lease, right?
Yeah.
The whole building goes dark while the landlords argue.
That's a really good way to look at it. And the Democrats' strategy, according to the leaked Semaphore polling, actually carries significant public backing.
Oh, right. The poll numbers were pretty striking.
Yeah, 54% of voters support blocking DHS funding to force these reforms. And when you look at the specific demand for judicial warrants, nearly 80% of voters support it.
Wow, 80%.
Yeah, because to the average person, requiring a warrant just sounds like a standard constitutional thing, you know?
Right. It makes sense on paper. But then you look at the fallout. So the funding is blocked, and we transition into this bizarre reality of who is actually getting hurt.
Which brings us back to the TSA.
Exactly. Over 366 TSA officers have just quit. Outright quit.
I mean, people can't work indefinitely without a paycheck to cover their groceries.
And it's not just airports. FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, has drawn down its disaster relief fund. They've halted critical training.
The Coast Guard's maritime patrols are also at risk. They need constant funding for fuel and maintenance.
But what's fascinating here is the massive irony in all of this. This entire fight is over border security and immigration enforcement, right?
Right.
Yet, Customs and Border Protection, CBP, and ICE are largely insulated from the shutdown. They are still operating.
Yes. Because of how they're funded, they receive mandatory funding from collected fees and recent laws like the One Big Beautiful Bill Act.
The trust fund that never freezes.
Exactly. So border operations just keep going while the airport screeners and disaster relief workers take the hit.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. If the very agencies the Democrats want to reform are immune to the funding freeze, doesn't that make shutting down the rest of the DHS an incredibly ineffective strategy?
Logically, yes. But politically, shutdowns often operate more as political megaphones than precise policy tools.
A megaphone that deafens the rest of the country.
Pretty much. The goal is to create enough noise and public pressure to force a negotiation. The fact that it misses the intended target is almost beside the point. It's all about leverage.
Which leads us to the actual money sitting on ice. There are massive investments trapped inside this frozen DHS Appropriations Act.
We're talking about funding to sustain 22,000 Border Patrol agents,
And $30 million to expand outbound fentanyl inspections.
plus another $10 million for counter-drone technologies.
But the wildest part to me, there is $20 million in this bill for the exact body cameras the Democrats are demanding.
The irony is just off the charts. The funding for the cameras is being blocked by the people demanding the cameras.
Because the Democrats don't just want the cameras.
Right.
They want the strict operational rules tied permanently to the money.
Right. They want rules on when they're turned on, how the footage is stored, all of that. And Republicans strongly oppose attaching rigid rules to the funding.
And looking at a House committee press release from the GOP, they are arguing that this delay recklessly endangers Americans.
Yeah, they point to an estimated 2 million gotaways.
Just to clarify, a gotaway is someone who crosses the border, triggers a sensor or camera, but evades capture.
Yeah, so 2 million people entering undetected. And the GOP press release also heavily emphasizes a recent terror attack in Austin, Texas.
Right, committed by a Senegalese immigrant, reportedly motivated by Iranian regime support. They're using that as direct proof that delaying these funds leaves the nation vulnerable.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's a core philosophical clash. Democrats believe the system needs immediate humane oversight before writing another blank check.
Especially after the death of Alex Pretty.
Exactly. While Republicans argue that delaying these funds for policy debates just leaves the nation completely vulnerable to evolving threats.
So what does this all mean? It means the American public is caught in a high-stakes game of chicken between humane oversight and national security.
And this raises an important question because we have to remember this isn't even the first shutdown this year.
Oh yeah, late 2025.
Right. We had a historic 43-day shutdown over healthcare tax credits.
43 days. That is unbelievable. And how did that one end?
It was finally ended by a small group of moderate senators who just broke ranks. They stepped outside their party leadership and forced a compromise.
They were the circuit breakers for the whole system. Yeah. Which leaves you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over. In a political system that constantly rewards extremes, are moderate lawmakers the only fail-safe we have left to keep the lights on?
It really makes you wonder.
Next time you are stuck in a 4-hour airport security line, ask yourself, how long can a government function when its basic budget is used as a daily weapon?